So today let's talk about one of the cheapest iPhones you can get that runs the latest version of iOS, which is the iPhone SE2. It's pretty ridiculous. You can find these nowadays refurbished or used for under $100, and so you might be wondering, should you actually buy this in 2025? So let's begin with the design, and yes, it looks pretty archaic by today's standards. This phone essentially is based on the iPhone 8, which was based on the iPhone 6, and so here we have a design that's over a decade old. But honestly guys, after going back to this form factor from a 14 Pro Max, it's not a massive issue. Yes, there are Android phones even at this price that look a lot more modern, but they generally have thick bezels anyway, so the SE2 isn't all too bad. And there is a plus here with the older design, which is Touch ID. Now, I do love Face ID and I've been happily using it for years, but using Touch ID again does make me miss it a little. There are some angles where Face ID sometimes does not work at, but that's not really an issue for Touch ID. It's super fast and reliable. I also love the haptics with this home button. You know what else I would love? If you click that subscribe button. It's free and would bring you the latest of Apple right to the subscription box, so please consider it. Join the saranbyte gang now. Anyway, the display is also something people often complain about with the SE, and whilst it does still pale in comparison to what Android phones offer, I can once again live with it for this price. Apple products usually have great LCDs, and even with the low resolution on paper, this still looks pretty crispy. I don't mind the 60Hz refresh rate, it's got P3 support so colors look great, and it's mostly fine for regular usage. I will say brightness is a tad low outdoors, but most low-end Android phones also don't have very bright panels. And personally, the screen size is a non-issue because I'm usually scrolling on social media on my phone, and so the display is ideal for that. And the combat size is quite refreshing after using a 14 Pro Max for nearly 3 years. Now the build is a lot better than what you would expect at this kind of price. It's aluminium and glass, which feels premium, but you also get features like IP67 and wireless charging, which you will rarely find on other phones at this price point. But by far the best aspect about this iPhone is the power this phone has. So the SE2 packs the A13 chipset, and yes, I'm aware this originally debuted with the iPhone 11 and that launched back in 2019, but the crazy thing is, this is still today more powerful than some mid-range Android phones. Now you could argue, why does this matter? A low-end Android chip is still good enough for most people's needs, right? Well yeah, that is true, but you do definitely notice this phone's chugging a little with more complex games like Asphalt 9, whereas this gives you a much smoother gaming experience. Now I'm definitely not a serious mobile gamer by any means, but my brother who has an iPad 9 with the exact same SoC plays all kinds of games 24/7, and he's never once complained about the performance. And as one expects, general usage is super smooth, and coupled with the optimization of iOS, this phone still outperforms nearly every phone at this price category. If anything, the only performance related issue I've had is RAM. This has 3 gigs of RAM, which is pretty limiting nowadays, and so I do notice apps don't stay as often in the background, but honestly, I should not be complaining when this phone is so affordable anyway. At the end of the day, most are going to be more than happy with the performance. And the great thing about this having a solid chipset is that it should still get support for a while. This does run the latest version of iOS 18 and should get iOS 19 and probably iOS 20 as well, which is pretty impressive considering most refurbished and used Android phones at this price might not even get 1 year of support. And the good news continues because we have now come to the camera on this iPhone, which once again is one of the best at this price point. Now to be fair, you can find Pixel 8 phones for around the same price, which have great cameras, but I would argue the SE2 offers the overall better camera experience, mainly because of the video quality. I've used this iPhone as a B-roll camera for my reviews, and it's been exceptional for this purpose. Yes, it has a small sensor on paper, and it also does not have many zoom options because there's only one lens on the back of the device, but basic video footage looks really good, and you won't find this from most phones at this price point. In fact, for those considering this as a YouTube camera to start your channel with, honestly, that's not a bad idea because you're likely not going to find decent 4K cameras under $100, and so the footage here is unbeatable for the price. This might not offer some of the newer camera features like ProRes and cinematic video, but for this kind of price, I'm not too annoyed, and for recording those special moments, this camera delivers. But also photos from the sensor are solid. This has Smart HDR2, so even with the sensor being the same one from the 2018 iPhone XR, it's pretty good in most lighting conditions. I say most because annoyingly there is no night mode on this. That's probably the biggest omission with the SE2. The front-facing camera is an older 7 megapixel sensor, but again, because of Apple's computational magic, it still performs pretty well, and so overall I'm happy with the cameras. Speakers and mic-wise, I've had zero issues, they're very solid, and here's a sample of those features for you guys. And here's a video mic test for you guys on the SE2. Let me know how I sound. I should sound pretty clear. And of course, let me know how the visuals are as well. Now everything so far sounds great, but you might be wondering, how's the battery life on this? Well, it's not that good. Simply put, I'm getting a max of 4 to 5 hours of screen on time on this phone, and that's with near 100% battery health as well. So yeah, this is definitely the biggest reason I would recommend getting the iPhone SE3 instead, because if you like this form factor, you can find those for slightly more and get the newer A15 chipset and much better endurance. Another upgrade the SE3 brings that's important is 5G. Now, at one point in time, I didn't care about this, but as 5G infrastructure has now improved in the UK, I definitely do pick up a much better speeds in my local area. And so yes, going back to a 4G only device, I did notice a difference. Though I do want to mention this could be partly because some carriers are artificially reducing their 4G speeds just to make the jump to 5G seem more prominent, which is cheeky. However, once again, I do want to say that if you're on a tight budget and you're spending only $100, you probably don't have very high expectations, and you likely don't care about this not having 5G, and whether the addition of 5G benefits you. Plus, if you're mostly at home, Wi-Fi performance has been solid on this, and have had zero Bluetooth issues. Also, if you have a charger near you at most times, you can work around the poor battery life. Because the battery's so small, you can charge this up pretty fast. And so yes, you can give this multiple top-ups and get through the day. And that kind of sums up my thoughts on this phone. I can nitpick all day and talk about the compromises, but at the end of the day, it's under $100, guys. And for that kind of price, the fact this runs the latest version of iOS, runs all the latest applications and has no performance issues for the most part is impressive alone. And so if you're looking for an iPhone on a strict budget or want a backup iPhone, you really can't go wrong with this. The iPhone SE2 will continue to be a bargain on the used and refurbished market for the foreseeable future, and I'll leave links below to buy this. And now let's dive into the comments and see what you guys are saying about the iPhone SE2. So Nino Retorado 1927, I hope I'm not butchering that, but they say, I love how handy SE2. I'm assuming that's referring to the size, and yeah, it is a very handy size because it is way more compact than most modern iPhones. It's only 4.7 inches, but the actual form factor is very similar to the iPhone 12 mini and 13 mini, but of course it's a lot cheaper. And so for those who just want a device that's easy to use in one hand, this is the one to get. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.